Miller vanished on my birthday, and with him, so did every cent in our accounts. I didn't know it at the time. I just thought he'd forgotten. Again. The candles melted on the cake I bought for myself. The reservation for 2 expired. The messages I sent, delivered, but never read. I blew out the candles anyway, wished for something small. For once in 10 years, I wished he would remember I existed. The house was too quiet. I wandered from room to room, half expecting him to jump out and surprise me, like in the videos people post online. But there was no surprise, no laughter. Only my reflection in the mirror, still in the red dress I bought because he once said red suited me. At midnight, I called him. Straight to voicemail. I called again. 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 The pit in my stomach grew cold. I tried his office line. No answer. I tried Rocco, his best friend and business partner. It rang once, then went silent. At 2:14 a.m., I called the police. He'd been gone 12 hours by then. They told me not to panic. Maybe he just needed space. Maybe he forgot his phone. Maybe he'd show up in the morning with flowers. But Miller wasn't the kind of man who forgot his phone. At dawn, I opened our banking app to transfer money for groceries. The screen went white, then red. Insufficient funds, not just in checking. In savings. In every single account we had. I opened the safe. Empty. I opened the bottom drawer of his wardrobe. The one he always kept locked. Empty. I called Rocco again. Blocked. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there, holding the birthday card I had written for him that morning, thinking, so this is what it feels like to be erased. By the time the detectives came, all that was left of my husband was his toothbrush and an unanswered voicemail. Hey, babe, I had said, smiling because I still believed. Happy birthday to me. Come home soon, okay? He never did, and I never saw a single trace of him again. Until the day I was reborn. My name is Ashley. 33. Divorced on paper, widowed in spirit. And depending on who you ask, either the girl who got abandoned or the one who got everything, taken from her and still stood up. I used to believe in small things. Birthday cards, anniversary reminders, the way someone looks at you when they think you're not watching. I clung to those things, even when they started to fade. Miller and I met when I was 23. I was waitressing at a downtown hotel, bar, working night shifts while finishing a marketing degree. He walked in wearing a tailored suit and a 5 o'clock shadow. He was charming in that soft-spoken, deliberate way, like someone who knew exactly how the world worked and wasn't bothered by it. He left a $50 tip for a $12 drink and returned the next night. He told me I had eyes like I already knew the ending of every story. He said it like it wasn't a pickup line, and I believed him. 6 months later, I moved into his apartment. 2 years later, we were married. Miller always felt like a safe bet, a man who didn't just talk about stability. He was stability. He never forgot to lock the door, always filed taxes early. And when he started RMC Holdings with Rocco, I watched him build it like a fortress, brick by calculated brick. In the beginning, he adored me. His affection wasn't loud, but it was steady. Quiet breakfast routines. A thumb brushed across my palm when no one was looking. He'd say things like, "You're my compass," and it made sense, because back then, he made me feel like I was pointing somewhere important. But stability has a dark side. Sometimes it becomes routine, and routine becomes invisibility. By our 7th year, I had memorized the version of Miller I was supposed to accept. Polite but distant. Kind but unavailable. Never cruel, just gone in pieces. He'd come home late, smell like foreign cologne, say he was networking. I'd ask how his day was and get one-word answers. Then came Heather. Heather had been my friend since college. She was the kind of girl who made you feel lucky to sit next to her. Flawless skin, effortless laugh. She had this way of making pain seem poetic, as if betrayal was just part of life's rhythm and not something she actively orchestrated. I introduced her to Miller. I trusted her, trusted them. She'd say things like, "Miller's so loyal to you," and I'd nod while something behind her eyes flickered like static on a bad signal. Miller started going out more. Business meetings turned into week-long conferences. His phone never rang in front of me. And when it did, he answered in other rooms. I didn't want to believe it. When you've spent years building something, you don't assume termites. You blame the weather. But termites don't knock. They hollow you quietly. On our 10th anniversary, we didn't celebrate. He was in Paris, sealing a merger. Heather sent me tulips. I stared at them for hours. Tulips were Miller's go-to flowers for her, not me. I wanted to confront him. But how do you accuse someone of something they haven't confessed to? So I waited. I waited until he vanished on my birthday. I told myself I should have seen it coming. But knowing something's broken and watching it shatter are two very different kinds of grief. The days after his disappearance were a blur of detectives. Bank visits? Awkward sympathy from people who didn't know what to say. Maybe he's in trouble, someone suggested. He'll come back, said another. No one wanted to say what I was already thinking. He left me, and he didn't even think. I deserved a goodbye. I kept trying to remember what I had done wrong. Had I not been patient enough? Had I become boring? Too ordinary for the man who once said he couldn't look away from me? I even asked myself if Heather was better. If maybe I was the reason he chose someone else. But those thoughts didn't matter, not anymore. Because 3 months after his disappearance, I died. The system called it a collapse. My heart gave out. But the truth is simpler. I died of being forgotten. And when I opened my eyes again, I wasn't 33. I was 28, back in our old apartment. Miller still beside me. RMC Holdings still in its early phase. Heather, still texting me heart emojis, but this time I wasn't the same Ashley. This time, I knew what was coming, and I wasn't going to beg for affection. I wasn't going to ignore the signs. This time, I was going to be the one who vanished, not quietly. Not weakly. I would disappear from Miller's life the same way he once disappeared from mine. Except I'd be taking everything with me, starting with his name. In the Rebirth, everything looked the same, down to the crack in the hallway tile and the soft hum of Miller's electric toothbrush each morning, but I wasn't the same. The first time I heard him laugh again, it twisted something in me, because I remembered what it felt like when that laugh stopped including me. Back then, I would ask, "What's funny?" And he'd say, "Nothing important." Now I didn't ask, I just watched. The system gave no guidelines, no handbook for how to relive your past without repeating your mistakes. Only a single directive: protect your assets. That didn't just mean money, it meant time, energy, dignity. So I started quietly. I didn't change everything all at once. I smiled when he came home. I made coffee the way he liked it. I agreed. When he asked if I wanted to go into business with him again, an idea that had felt romantic the first time, naive the second, I registered the new LLC under my maiden name. Behind the scenes, I hired my own attorney. Every signature Miller thought was joint? It wasn't. Every investment he thought we were building together? Solely mine. But the real conflict didn't start with the money. It started with Heather. She entered like a breeze, soft, warm, familiar, as if we hadn't been at each other's side through every phase of adulthood, as if she wouldn't later become the woman who stood at the edge of my broken life and watched it burn. She came over with red wine and long hugs, telling me she was finally getting over that loser musician she had cried about in the past. Timeline. "You and Miller are so lucky," she said, eyes trailing over our furniture, our framed wedding photo, the new espresso machine. "I just want what you guys have." I smiled, not because I believed her, because I knew that wanting what I had was exactly how she'd begin taking it. In the old life, I saw the signs late. This time, I saw them early. The way she texted Miller after dinners, "Tell Ashley thanks again." Even though I was right, there to hear it myself. The way she started dressing like she had a date when she said she didn't. The way her perfume lingered longer on the couch cushions than it should have. I kept quiet until I found the receipts. 2 wine glasses. 1 hotel room. The charge labeled under RMC's corporate card. I left it on the counter one morning, didn't say a word, just poured his coffee, kissed his cheek, and went to my studio. By lunch, it was gone. Not a word spoken, but his behavior changed. Slightly. He started asking where I was going. He started checking the mail before I could. He brought home gifts, expensive ones, like guilt could be measured in leather and diamonds. I didn't confront him. That was what he expected. I just made sure every dollar he earned got funneled into accounts he no longer controlled. I created shell companies, real estate holding firms. I diversified, protected, separated. Heather, meanwhile, kept showing up. I think he's acting weird, she told me over lunch one day, sipping her mimosa with deliberate casualness. Like he's distracted. Oh, I said, slicing my avocado toast. Maybe you should ask him. About it, she blinked. Why would I ask him? I shrugged. You seem to know how he's feeling better than I do. She didn't speak after that. 2 weeks later, I overheard their conversation in the guest bathroom. She had come over while I was out. I watched through the security app I had secretly installed. I can't keep sneaking around, she whispered. You said you were leaving her. I will, Miller replied. I just need time. The business is tied up. If I leave now, I lose half of everything. I paused the video, stared at his face. He wasn't afraid to lose me. He was afraid to lose my assets. But this time, he wouldn't get half. He'd get nothing. The next morning, I filed the final document. Ownership of RMC's public-facing assets transferred to a private trust. My trust. And still, I smiled over. Breakfast. I wore the earrings he once told me made me look too expensive to be touched. I love you, he said suddenly, without looking up from his phone. I sipped my coffee. You should tell Heather that. He froze. It was the first time I ever said her name aloud since the rebirth. I waited for the lies, the excuses, the denial, but none came. He just nodded. You knew. I did. He looked at me then. Really looked. As if trying to see who I was beneath the calm. You don't seem angry. I'm not. Why? I smiled softly. Because this time I'm not the one losing anything. And I meant it, because I had already counted every dollar, already planned every move, already signed every paper that made Miller nothing more than a ghost inside a company built on my name. The betrayal had already happened. The heartbreak had already passed. Now? Now it was just math and justice. Ashley didn't sleep through the nights anymore. Even with everything going according to her plan, she couldn't close her eyes without seeing the flicker of Miller's smile. How real it used to look, how fake she now knew it was. Some nights she'd lay there listening to the soft hum of the ceiling fan, staring at the space between her and the man who once promised to never make her feel alone. It was terrifying how someone could be inches away from you and still be unreachable. She kept remembering the old life, the silence, the abandonment, the way she had tried to call him that night with shaking hands, still hopeful, still clinging to the illusion that maybe she mattered. It haunted her. Not the betrayal itself, but how willingly she had accepted the crumbs he offered. How she had twisted herself into someone convenient, quiet, forgiving. Now every moment she spent playing her part felt like walking barefoot across glass. She smiled at breakfast, laughed at his stories, nodded when Heather was mentioned, but inside, she was unraveling. She questioned herself constantly. Was she truly different this time, or just a better actress? Some mornings she stood in front of the mirror, gripping the edge of the sink until her knuckles went white, whispering, "Don't go soft. Don't go soft again." Because the part of her that used to love him, deeply, stupidly, hadn't vanished. It had only gone quiet. It waited, like a wound covered by silk. And sometimes it would speak. "Maybe he'll change," it whispered. "Maybe he regrets it. Maybe this time he'll come home for real. She hated that voice. She hated how even after death, a part of her still longed for the man who left her cold. And then there was the guilt. Not for Miller, never for him, but for Heather. Because once upon a time, Heather had been the first person to hold her after her mother died. The first to help her move into her college dorm. The one who stood beside her in a champagne-colored dress on her wedding day, crying happy tears that now felt like lies. Ashley remembered those memories, and they didn't hurt less just because she knew the ending now. It wasn't just betrayal, it was grief. Grief for the version of herself who believed in them both, and the suspense clawed at her like a storm behind glass. How long could she keep this up? How long before Miller grew suspicious of her calm? How long before Heather made her next move? Every text from Heather made Ashley flinch now. Every time Miller left the house late, she felt the urge to follow. Not because she didn't trust them, but because she did. She trusted them to lie, to cheat, to betray. She trusted them to hurt her again, if she let them. And then there was the pressure. The system had given her this second chance with one goal: protect everything that had once been taken. But sometimes, Ashley wondered, what if that wasn't enough? What if revenge wasn't a destination? What if reclaiming her power meant becoming someone she didn't recognize? Some days she missed the girl who waited by the window for someone who never came. The one who still believed love could fix what was broken. But that girl had died, alone, on her birthday. Now, Ashley wore armor. She walked with caution. She spoke with precision. And yet, underneath all that strength, there was still a human heartbeat. She found herself crying in grocery store aisles for no reason, laughing too hard at sitcoms she didn't even enjoy, talking to herself in the shower like someone trying to prove they were still real. Sometimes she dreamt of the moment he vanished. Not the new Miller, but the old one, the one who walked, out on her life with her name still on his lips and nothing in his eyes. And in those dreams, she didn't scream. She whispered, "Why wasn't I enough?" Even now, even after everything, there was no answer. There never had been. The worst part was that she still loved him. Not the version of him that existed now, but the one she thought he was. The one who made her coffee at 6 a.m. and kissed her forehead before meetings. The one who used to trace her spine when she couldn't sleep. Loving that man was like loving a ghost, and ghosts, no matter how tender, still haunt you. So Ashley kept walking forward. She filed paperwork, smiled at charity galas, took business meetings like nothing was wrong. She was composed, brilliant, untouchable. But every night, when the world grew quiet again, she faced the war inside her, the part that wanted to burn it all down, and the part that still stood in the ashes, looking for pieces of a home that never really existed. Ashley never expected the letter. It arrived without a return address, folded twice inside an ivory envelope, slipped under her door as if by a ghost. She had just returned from a meeting, another carefully orchestrated step in her financial detachment from Miller, when she noticed it sitting alone on the entryway tile. The handwriting stopped her heart. Delicate. Familiar. Heather's. She carried it to the kitchen like it might explode. Her hands trembled, but her expression didn't change. She slid her nail under the seal and unfolded the note. It read, "I never planned to fall in love with him, but I did. And now I have to tell you something before it's too late. Meet me, alone. You deserve the truth." Ashley stared at the words. Her first instinct was fury. How dare Heather act like the victim now, like she owed Ashley kindness after everything. But beneath that anger was something far more dangerous. Curiosity. What hadn't she been told? What part of this betrayal was still hiding in the dark? She didn't respond to the note immediately. She waited 2 days, watched Miller closely, tracked Heather's movements through their shared GPS tags and subtle surveillance. Nothing out of the ordinary, yet the tension clung to her skin like smoke. Finally, she agreed. She messaged Heather from a burner phone. "Tomorrow, noon, corner of 5th and Wexler, no games." Heather arrived first. Her hair pulled back, no makeup, a beige coat over simple jeans. An outfit meant to say, "I'm not the villain." Ashley approached slowly, her heels clicking with deliberate grace. She said nothing as she sat down. Heather's eyes filled with tears, but Ashley offered no comfort. "I didn't come here to hear apologies," she said coldly. "What do you want to tell me?" Heather took a shaky breath. "I'm pregnant." The world tipped. Ashley blinked once. "Yours and Miller's?" Heather nodded. 7 weeks. For a long moment, Ashley said nothing. No anger, no disbelief, only calculation. Everything she had rebuilt, her plan, her control, her quiet vengeance, it all hinged on staying ahead, on knowing what was coming before it came. But this changed the rules. "You're lying," Ashley finally said, voice calm. "Trying to trap me into some emotional collapse." Heather reached into her purse, pulling out a crumpled sonogram. She slid it across the table like a confession. Ashley didn't touch it. She didn't need to. It was real. Heather's next words came like a scalpel. "He doesn't know." Ashley narrowed her eyes. "Why tell me?" "Because," Heather whispered, "he said he's going to leave me. He says he's going to try with you again." For the first time in weeks, Ashley felt her heartbeat skip. Not in fear, in shock. "He what?" Heather nodded, lips trembling. "He told me last night that he made a mistake, that he can't lose you, that everything with me was a distraction." Ashley laughed, bitter and hollow. "So he cheats, plans to leave me, steals from me, then comes crawling back once the money's secure and you're no longer convenient?" Heather swallowed hard. "I thought I could handle it. I thought if he loved me more, I wouldn't feel guilty. But he still looks for you. Even now." Ashley leaned forward. "So you want me to what? Take him back? Raise your child? Pretend this never happened?" "No," Heather whispered. "I want you to ruin him properly." The words settled heavy between them. Ashley stared. "Why?" "Because I loved him," Heather said, tears finally spilling. "And he still picked you, even after everything I did to have him. He used me, Ashley, just like he used you." It was the second betrayal inside the first. Miller wasn't just a cheater. He wasn't just a thief. He was a man who played women like pieces on a board until they were no longer useful. Ashley stood up slowly. She didn't touch the sonogram. "You're not a victim, Heather. You knew what you were doing." Heather nodded. "I did, but I'm not going to protect him anymore." Ashley looked down at her one last time. "Then stay out of my way." Because now the game had changed. And this time, Miller wasn't just going to lose everything he owned. He was going to lose the illusion that anyone ever truly loved him. The night was unnaturally quiet. The kind of quiet that settles before something erupts. Ashley stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of their penthouse, gazing down at the city lights. Her fingers curled around a glass of red wine she hadn't touched, her reflection staring back with unreadable calm. Behind her, Miller moved around the apartment like everything was normal. He'd just returned from a business dinner. No explanation, no details. Just the same hollow routine, kiss on the cheek, fake smile, loosened tie. Ashley had watched him live in that lie for so long, she no longer saw a man. She saw a mask. "Long day?" he asked as he loosened his cuffs, stepping into the kitchen. She didn't turn. "You could say that." He poured himself a drink, unaware that her silence had weight now. That it wasn't casual anymore. It was surgical, and tonight was the operation. Ashley waited until he finished his drink, walked past her to sit on the couch, and pulled out his phone. She turned then, slow and deliberate. "Do you love me?" she asked. Miller glanced up, blinking. "What?" "It's a simple question." She walked over and stood directly in front of him. "Do you love me?" He gave her that familiar, polished smile. "Of course I do. What kind of question is that?" Ashley nodded once, then placed a thin envelope on the table in front of him. He looked at it, confused. "What's this?" Proof. He opened it slowly. Inside were photographs, grainy, but clear. Him and Heather outside a clinic, him and Heather leaving a hotel, him slipping her a key, and then a copy of the sonogram. Miller's hand froze. Ashley watched him closely. Every twitch in his jaw, every flicker behind his eyes. You knew, he muttered. I did. He exhaled sharply, setting the papers down. So what now? You want to fight about it? Divorce me? Take half? Ashley tilted her head. Half? He stood now, tone sharpening. Ashley, I made mistakes. I won't deny that. But I've been trying. I've stayed. We can work through this. She laughed quietly. You're not even pretending well anymore. He took a step toward her. Whatever Heather told you, she told me everything, including the part where you said you were going to leave her for me. He stopped. She smiled, soft and lethal. The sad thing is, I believe you meant it. That's the kind of man you are. Whoever benefits you most in the moment. That's who you love. Ashley, she raised a hand to silence him. You think this is about the affair? About the child? It's not. It's about everything else. It's about how you watched me rot in a marriage that you knew you'd already abandoned. He tried again, reaching for her. Let's talk. We can fix this. No, she said, stepping back. You don't understand. There's nothing left to fix. He frowned. What are you saying? I'm saying I've already left you. Legally, financially, emotionally, you just didn't know it. His breath caught. What? She walked to the side table, picked up a small folder, and dropped it in his lap. Inside were documents, signed and stamped, transfer deeds, bank statements, termination letters, the entire company structure, all stripped from him. You transferred. Everything? He whispered. No, I didn't need to. I built the entire network myself. You just followed. You trusted me so blindly you never read the fine print. You let me file your taxes, sign your contracts, merge your assets. His voice cracked. You betrayed me. Ashley's expression didn't change. I protected myself, and I waited. I waited until you were comfortable, until you thought I was too soft to ever fight back, until you thought you owned me. Miller looked down at the folder, dazed. This isn't possible. It's already done. He dropped onto the couch, hands shaking. You'll ruin me. I didn't ruin you, Miller. You ruined yourself. He looked up then, and for the first time, really looked at her. Not the woman who loved him. Not the quiet, compliant wife. But the storm he thought he could control. I still love you, he whispered, like a dying man reaching for light. Ashley crouched in front of him, eyes level. You never loved me. You loved having someone to manipulate, but I'll give you something back. He blinked. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a flash drive. What is that? He asked. Your final decision, she said. It has the last untouched funds, the ones in your name. You can take it. Leave tonight, start over, quietly. And if I don't, she stood, then I go public. With everything. He stared at her, the weight of reality crashing down. You're serious, deadly. He stood slowly, shoulders heavy. So that's it? Ashley nodded. You disappeared on my birthday, took everything with you and left me with nothing but air. So this year, I'm giving you a gift back. What? Freedom. But not the kind you wanted, the kind you earned. He didn't speak. He picked up the flash drive. He looked around the apartment once more, like it would remember him when no one else would. Then he left. No goodbye. No apology. Just silence and a closing door. Ashley walked back to the window. Her reflection met her with something she hadn't seen in a long time. Peace. Her hands still trembled. Her heart still ached. But she had done it. She hadn't just survived. She'd won. Ashley stood in the quiet apartment for several minutes. After Miller left, The door clicked shut behind him, but its echo lingered, like a ghost finally released. Her heartbeat was steady, her eyes dry. The storm was over, but she hadn't survived it. She had commanded it. There would be no dramatic returns, no second chances, no letters slipped under doors or last-minute apologies. He was gone. The man who once held her heart had walked out, not with dignity, not with power, but with nothing. She moved through the room slowly, switching off the lights one by one. Every lamp she dimmed felt like a chapter closing. Every shadow now held relief, not fear. And when she reached the bedroom, the one he used to sleep in, the one that once suffocated her, she stood at the door and didn't go in. Instead, she locked it. Downstairs, the media buzz was already beginning. News sites had started to whisper about a hostile restructuring of the Brookstone Group. Investors panicked, board members resigned, stock plummeted. And somewhere in the swirl of reports, a new name emerged: Ashley Monroe, acting CEO, with 100% board support and all subsidiary trust ownership. The empire was hers. She hadn't inherited it. She'd built it, layer by layer, like armor. Miller hadn't just underestimated her. He had made the fatal mistake of thinking betrayal broke her spirit. In truth, it had forged her into something untouchable. But it wasn't enough. There was still one thread left to cut. 2 days later, Ashley entered the modest suburban clinic Heather had chosen for her prenatal care. She didn't call first. She didn't knock. She walked straight into the waiting room where Heather sat, clutching her phone like it might save her. Heather looked up and froze. Ashley? Ashley's voice was calm. Relax. I'm not here to fight. Heather stood slowly, defensive, cautious. Ashley tilted her head. I thought you should know. Miller's gone. Took the flash drive and disappeared. I haven't heard a word. Heather's eyes widened. So, it's done? Ashley smiled faintly. It's just beginning. Heather blinked. What do you mean? Ashley handed her a sealed envelope. Inside is a trust, for your child. Separate from anything tied to Miller. You can live quietly, comfortably, but only if you agree to one thing. Heather's hands trembled. What? Leave this city, start over. No interviews, no memoirs, no podcasts titled The Mistress Who Regrets. Heather looked at her, tears brimming. Why are you doing this? Because your child didn't ask to be part of this story. And I'm not the villain in theirs. Heather clutched the envelope tightly. You really are stronger than both of us. Ashley's voice turned cold. No. I'm just the only one who learned. She turned and walked away. That night, the last step of her plan began. The board's annual charity gala, formerly hosted by Miller, was now under her name. The ballroom shimmered with pale gold chandeliers and blush rose accents. Her color scheme. Her rules. Ashley walked in wearing a gown the color of powdered starlight, her hair in soft waves, her smile calm, and unbothered. Everyone turned. The whispers were instant. She looks radiant. She really pulled it off. She didn't just survive, she replaced him. Among the crowd stood Rocco Vane, the firm's legal strategist, once Miller's closest advisor. Now, fully aligned with Ashley. He approached her with a half-smile. You look terrifying, he said warmly. In the best possible way, she chuckled. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me all week. I heard Miller left the country, Rocco said quietly. Took a plane to Montenegro. Changed numbers. Total vanish. Ashley sipped her wine. Good. That means the last move is mine. He raised an eyebrow. You're still not done? No, she said, because he doesn't know how he lost. Later that evening, Ashley excused herself and walked up to the rooftop terrace. The skyline glittered beyond her, and in her hand, she held a phone. One message. One video file. She pressed send. Thousands of shareholders, staff members, business media outlets, and industry partners across the country received it within seconds. It was a timeline. A surgical breakdown of financial manipulations, betrayals, and hidden wire transfers, all traced back to Miller. A video, clean and composed, narrated by her in soft, devastating clarity. It wasn't just a takedown. It was an autopsy. Miller's last defense, his legacy, shattered that night. He was finished. Ashley didn't smile. She didn't cheer. She just watched the city lights, because the best revenge wasn't destruction. It was irrelevance. She was no longer haunted by him. She had moved so far beyond his reach he couldn't even hate her properly, and now the world would forget him, but they would remember her. Weeks passed. The scandal dominated headlines. Investigations began. But Ashley was untouched. Her records were clean. Her position, unshakable, and her peace, real. She moved into a new house, modest, sunlit, quiet. The kind of place where grief doesn't echo. She kept the doll from her childhood on a shelf, not out of nostalgia, but as a reminder of the girl who used to beg for love and the woman who gave it to herself. On the anniversary of her rebirth, no longer her birthday, she lit a single candle, closed her eyes, and made a wish, not for revenge, not for love, for nothing. She needed nothing anymore. The system never spoke again. Its job was done. Ashley opened her eyes and exhaled. Outside, the world turned. She stood not as someone who had been broken, but as someone who had bent the entire narrative to her will. No more second chances. No more waiting. No more aching in silence. Her story was no longer about loss. It was about reclamation. She didn't just walk away from the fire. She built an empire from its ashes.